We started our holiday at the Intercontinental Hotel, which was near Tahiti Airport. Patsy and I visited the Carrefour supermarket to pick up some lunch, which we then ate on our veranda. Later that day we joined Aranui 3, and shortly after joining, Julie from Germany gave us a rundown on the ship.
Our cabin is excellent, quite substantial, and currently I'm just looking aft. We come in from the left hand side of the screen down by that bulkhead, and there's this little sitting area with a small table and chair, bathroom on the left, which is a full bath with shower, toilet, basin, everything one could wish. And looking forward from the sitting room area, for want of a better term, there is a large double bed with a typically what we think is now a fairly firm French mattress, television on the left, and a dressing table with a very large mirror and lights. A square port looking forward over the deck, and two square ports on the outboard side, on the port side, which look out onto our balcony. Our balcony is directly under the wing of the bridge, and Rosemary does appear to be having a post-prandial nap. It is now just after lunch, and the pool is pretty empty, but the kids are enjoying themselves. And back there, about 18 hours away, is Tahiti.
The ship has a very nice lounge and reception information area.
The ship shop, which is quite small but has quite a lot of stuff that you want, postcards, sun cream, a few biscuits, bit of cereal, clothes.
So to increase or decrease the speed, we've got a variable pitch.
Early in the trip we were given a tour of the bridge, and then it was on to Takapoto in the Tuamotu Islands.
There's an airfield on this island, a little strip, and from the seaward end of the strip, not very far away from the harbour, the jetty, just a little stone breakwater, a crack in the reef, and they can obviously get the small barges in behind there with a bit of protection. Both just hove to and sending the cargo into the little dock on the leeward side of the island. There we are, boarding on the port side. One boat almost full, one boat waiting to pick Rosemary and myself, and the others up. Once inside, it's all ashore. Our first stop was the Catholic Church. This is the picnic place. It is overcast but bright. And in here is where we're going to have our fish barbecue. Parodies are sitting on the top of the coals. They're nicely cooked. And here comes our first boat. And that is our veranda and our cabin door just under the bridge. We load the second boat.
At the end of a very pleasant day at Takapoto, we are now underway once again and headed for the Marquesas.
As always, suns are very hard to get. Actually, not too bad tonight. It's a really red sky.
Our landfall in the Marquesas was planned for Uapau. We then went on to visit all 6 major islands in the group. But first, Carol would brief us.
1795 and Cook then in 1774 with an earth oven in Umu. And then there was also a house for the men, where the men would eat separately from the women.
And evening entertainment.
Uapau. For the first time of the day. Well, it's 8:30 in the morning. We are in Uapau, in the harbour, and Aranui has already started. In fact, she is well into offloading her cargo.
When you get back, you go through just the detour ones.
Tato pautue, maka puhi puhi. Takiru kurita ye.
And after the dancing, there was the feasting. And very nice indeed. Local food, goat, pig, fish, pawpaw, down to the wharf, on board, and we sail in 45 minutes, I think. The airport, a bit of an uphill strip. At Uapau. 20 to 6, almost a full moon at Hautau Bay, which is just over the other side of Uapau. As far as I know, most of the tourists are still ashore, but they could have a boat going backwards and forwards with them already. The sun up there on the hills, right at the top, and this will be the last view we have of Uapau.
Our next island in the Marquesas was Nukuhiva, and I'm now sitting on the waterfront in Taihoe Bay, where things haven't changed very much from what I can see in the last 14 years.
And that is looking east along the seafront. I am just in the front of the bank, which is pretty much the centre of the waterfront. A little bridge crossing a small creek, which is again just to the left of the bank, and to the west, right down to the tourist hotel at the far left hand edge, far western end of the bay. There is a gaggle of yachts anchored in the middle of the bay as usual. Got a reasonably comfortable anchor. A little bit bouncy at night at times, but otherwise pretty good. We set off in convoy in a number of four-wheel drives of various sorts, commonly known as jeeps. We visit to the cathedral.
Everybody have a good morning. Welcome to the Ash. The bishop that I've mentioned, that the Marquesans, even though they have a new bishop now, Monsignor Luke de Ash is still our bishop. Okay?
We've stopped at the first viewing station, probably the only viewing station I think, until we get to the top. That's overall view of the harbour, and now it'll be back into the trucks and up on towards lunch. Well, up at the lookout now, and this is where we're having our lunch, our barbecue, our picnic, call it what you like. Picnic this time, no fish, just cold collation. And from here, yet again, we look down onto the bay. Well, I'm looking down now on Tapavai, which is the second village, and this is where we go back to the ship from. I can remember getting a lift up that street, the main street with the river on the left.
After we left the ship in Taiohae Bay, she finished her unloading before she came round to Taipavai Bay, where she anchored for the night. After we left our Land Rovers, jeeps, we crossed the little bridge over the river, which ran away towards the sea, and on our way down to the embarkation point, we were entertained by the local school children. Not long after, the whale boat arrived, came up the river, and we embarked for the return trip to the ship. By next morning, we'd arrived at Hivaoa in the port of Atuona, which was where I had first arrived in the Marquesas 14 years ago.
There are about 20 yachts in the bay. This is exactly where I was when I had the stern of Eureka tied up to the wharf here, the little jetty, and was taking the water.
The first thing we did in Atuona was to visit the graveyard and the graves of Paul Gauguin and Jacques Brel.
This is the place I remember, this is the scene I remember as I walked along this street, which I think was a dirt road in those days. General area of the town and the hills beyond. And there it is with a Jeep just going in front of it. A restaurant where we will have lunch today. I'll be sitting down there in that right hand corner with Patsy and John.
After a brief stop at Tahuata, where I did not go ashore, we went on to Whatuiva and the port of Omoa.
Rosemary is recovering at the moment from the mal de stomach. The crew are doing their bits and doing it very well.
The most interesting thing about our visit to Omoa was the working of the whaleboats and the barge in what I would describe as fairly hazardous conditions. They also managed to put visitors ashore, but Rosemary and I did not venture ashore in these conditions.
The crew get the timing pretty well. And the object of everyone's interest today is the village. Enjoying the view of the people landing from the whaleboats. And there goes another one. They use a front end loader to whip the stuff off the barge and also to drop it back down on. Places this to the dock, to the operation, and look at a scene like that. And the barge is loaded with enough gear, out she comes. There, looks like that's good enough for a lift now.
If you don't want to go ashore, or after you've been ashore and you want to cool down, there's always the ship's pool, which was a very pleasant diversion.
And just to show you that we have a captain who has no fear, our stern is now swung, and that's how close we are to the wharf. Up you come on. There she goes. Righto, boat is full. And back to the ship. Ship is now anchored after lunch, and the village is in there. Left of screen is a little breakwater, and I'd say that's where the entrance is. This is the Bay of Virgins, and of course it comes from an original name which was the Bay of Penises. There they all stand in a row. The word for one is V-E-R-G-E, and I believe that the missionaries decided to add the I and make it a V-E-I-R-G-E, which is virgin.
Our return visit to Hivaroa gave us the chance to visit Paumau and the nearby Oipona archaeological site.
That is where the site of the Mahi Oipona is situated. It's in the jungle there, you can't see it from seaward. And there we have the sacred hill, beneath which, or to one side of which, the site was built. The English-speaking group is going to be addressed as usual by Carol, and here we are, gathered round for a learned discourse.
Everybody has to have their own theory, and so there's a lot of disagreement. First, let me tell you, Kaka is a big guy. He's 2.43 centimeters high, about 8 feet. It's described as the largest intact Polynesian statue outside of Easter Island. I told you the other day there's actually one from the Australs that's 3 centimeters taller. That's in Tahiti at the Gauguin Museum, the grounds of the Gauguin Museum. So there's Australs that are a little bit bigger. It's actually a woman. The big guy is actually the remains of an older.
That is the dog that Haideral says is a llama. And this is the woman who has either is swimming or has given birth, depending on which version you accept.
The next island we visited was Uahuka, but first we had the interesting anchorage in Vaipai Harbour.
The entrance to Vaipai Harbour, and long and narrow it is. Both whaleboats have been sent in with line handlers.
Firstly, the anchor was dropped as we entered the harbour, then the ship was turned at rest, and finally the lines were sent out on both port and starboard quarter to moor the ship with 3 points of attachment, the anchor and the 2 after lines.
We have now doubled up on both sides of these outer bollards, so I doubt if there will be any further action. We are as far as we will go. The fleet of jeeps, in inverted commas, is loading up, and in a few moments we will once more be underway in convoy. This time we ride inside, have one with a covered wagon, so rather than get burnt on the outside, we've chosen the inner route. The horse riders have arrived before us and tethered their mounts. This is a great musical welcome to Uahuka.
Musée Communal de Uahuka. Unfortunately, most of the exhibits were recreations from old pictures, but at least it gives an idea of what the past was like.
Lydia is leading our group through the arboreum.
Amongst other things, we were given the chance to taste some of the fruits that were being grown.
Now this is Aranui Bay, which is where we will be stopping to have lunch. After lunch we'll be having a swim, and I think that is the beach. Now, this pyramid rock marks the western side, I think it's the western side of our bay. Aranui is leaving her anchorage and slowly coming out here around the little rocks, and will come and anchor off the bay here and pick us up after lunch. Restaurant Hitikau, chez Jean Fournier. Here in Aranui Bay, Aranui awaits. These are the two islands which are rookeries for thousands of sooty terns, and there they are. However, according to custom, the locals are allowed to harvest the eggs, and that's what they are doing. And here I think we have Lion Island, Marquesan style.
The following day we returned to Nukuhiva on the north coast this time, first at Anaho Bay.
Anaho Bay, as I remember it. And my anchorage was in a very similar position.
I have always been impressed in Anaho Bay with what I call the flying buttresses. I believe the correct name for them is tooth.
Yellow sandy beaches. Aranui's boat is unloading stores. Anaho Bay's main claim to fame is its coral reef, which exists on the western shore. The boat going inshore again, and another look at the pass on the left hand side of the screen.
The top of the pass was a great place to get a photograph of Aranui 3 at anchor in Anaho Bay. The break in the reef made it easy for the whaleboats to take us ashore to the beach in Anaho Bay, where we were entertained once again with a picnic. On passage to our next unloading position, there was time for us, or those that wanted to visit the engine room.
and today could be our first wet day in paradise. Akaba is the name of the boat. The crew are wearing their fowlies for the first time that I can recall. We had 3 blasts of the horn when we came in, and out of the hills have come numerous Land Rovers, Jeeps, Toyotas to collect the cargo and to bring down what they have to offer. Possibly it'll all blow away by 8 o'clock this morning. It's quite surprising, that particular bit of rocky outcrop has a hole in the top. It is Monday the 27th of June. I'm looking at the landing in Hattie-o Bay. In front of the cemetery is the church with the twin spires. And overlooking it all is the hill with the statue of the Virgin. So there's the Madonna and cranes. That is the pass through which I came many moons ago, and that's where I got my lift back down into the village. In Yvonne's, waiting for the lunch. We have a little while to wait. The oven is not open for an hour plus. Beneath the mound of dirt is the oven, and on the barbecues up there we have, believe it or not, lobster. Their glory, green at the moment, and in a little while they'll be pink and perfect. And this big fella here seems to be the guardian of the river. Look, this time with the in front of the trees at the church, with the graveyard behind it. Stone tikis decorating the waterfront. Yvonne's is situated right alongside a lovely little stream which is running at the moment. And Patsy is hiding there in the bulrushes. Feverish expectation at the opening of the oven. Okay, removing the edges. License in the use of a sugar sack or whatever you like to call it. Chef will start to peel it off, so that it does not fall into the prepared food. Okay, after the sack we get down to the real business of the banana leaf. Here is the wire basket, and with great aplomb there is the pig. That is how it was. He's doing very nicely. One reef in the main, and looks like he's number 2. It's all go this morning as we leave Hi hoi.
After leaving Nukuhiva, we made a brief stop at Uapau before setting off on the long overnight passage to Whakareva in the Tuamotus.
Very wide entrance here, and a small motu on the starboard side which is marked by a light. Starboard side, port side's directly up sun, so there's no point in taking anything. And through the path, no difficulties at all here. One of the interesting things in Whakareva is the old lighthouse, which is quite an elegant structure. We're at the anchorage now, and I think the anchor will be going down any moment. And it will be the last of our Tuamotu picnics. This is just about the classic beach. And the classic lagoon. Aranui in the distance. And everyone enjoying themselves. And at the far end, behind the bull, is the barbecue on which are numerous sorts of fish. An airborne dinghy. It actually flew over us while we were having our barbecue. Down there is Venus Point. Tahiti itself. And a brief shot of Venus Point on Friday morning, the 1st of July, and the entrance buoys are there on the port bow, and we're lining up to come up the channel. There's a little pilot boat going ahead of us. Well, the festival is in full swing, and canoe races obviously finishing area for the canoe races. Ferry will go from there, and it'll be the Morea Express.
It did not take long before we had turned and gone alongside our berth, and then we unloaded, disembarked from Aranui 3, and went on our way with many happy memories of our time aboard the freighter to paradise.